everyone, I'm Kevin Elson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. Pope Francis is set to meet with thousands of young people from Italy in early August as a sort of precursor to the October Synod on young people, faith, and vocational discernment. The meeting between the Pope and the young people in Rome, titled "We Are Here," will take place on Saturday, August 11th. Rome Reports has more on the details.
The Italian dioceses estimate that more than 50,000 people will participate in an encounter the Pope will have with young people in Rome in August. It will take place in the symbolic and spacious Circus Maximus at 6:30 p.m. Pope Francis will hold dialogue with the youth and pray for the Synod in October, which will be dedicated to them. However, the event will not end there. On Sunday at 11 a.m., before praying the Angelus, the Holy Father will meet with them again. This time, it will take place in St. Peter's Basilica, where the youth will be celebrating Mass. The Pope is not expected to preside over the ceremony, but he will bless the gifts the young people will bring to World Youth Day in Panama. The San Damiano Cross, associated with the Italian patron St. Francis of Assisi, and a sculpture of Our Lady of Loreto. This will be one of Pope Francis's important encounters in the month of August, which include his trip to Ireland to participate in the World Meeting of Families.
And speaking of the October Synod of Bishops, Pope Francis has ratified the members elected by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops to represent the United States at the Synod. The USCCB announced July 23rd that the U.S. Church's delegates will be Cardinal Daniel Donato, President of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Archbishop Jose Gomez, Vice President of the USCCB, Archbishop Charles Chaput, Chairman of the USCCB Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth, Bishop Frank Caggiano, a member of that same committee, and Auxiliary Bishop Robert Barron of Los Angeles, Chairman of the USCCB Committee on Evangelization and Catechesis. A working document on the Synod was released in late June and includes a summary of all the Synod consultations to date. The Synod of Bishops will be taking place at the Vatican from October 3rd through the 28th. News now from around the world. Latin America prayed over the weekend for peace in Nicaragua as violence continued between protesters who are demanding President Daniel Ortega resign and government forces. The Catholic Church has been trying to mediate between the two groups, but has also come under attack. Rome Reports has the latest from Nicaragua.
In spite of strong international pressure, violence in Nicaragua is still ongoing. On Sunday, the whole church in Latin America celebrated a day of prayer for peace in the country. In places like this, Cardinal Brenes celebrated a Mass for reparation, where on July the 13th, 150 students had to resist the siege of the police and paramilitary groups for 15 hours. The pacifying role the church is playing in the country is costing it dearly. This parish wasn't the only place to suffer outrages and desecration. Earlier this month, the nuncio and several bishops were attacked by groups favorable to Ortega. Despite the condemnations of international institutions such as the UN or the Organization of American States, attacks against parishes have not stopped.
The Secretary General deplores and condemns the ongoing violence against civilians, including against students. He calls on the Nicaraguan government to provide effective protection to its population against attacks, ensure respect for human rights, and establish accountability for the violence. The use of lethal force is not only unacceptable, but is also in itself an obstacle to obtaining a political solution to the current crisis.
There seems to be little improvement despite meetings like this one with the Secretary General of the UN and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nicaragua. The situation is still very serious. More than 300 people have died since April, hundreds have disappeared, and thousands wounded. The instability in Nicaragua is already being felt in neighboring countries such as Costa Rica, where every day they count the arrival of more than 100 refugees.
Looking now at news from around the country, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who is chairman of the U.S. Bishops Committee on Pro-Life Activities, is calling for a national prayer campaign effort to pray that the change in the U.S. Supreme Court will move our nation closer to the day when every human being is protected in law and welcomed in life. The Cardinal invited all people of goodwill to pray each Friday from August 3rd to September 28th in a novena for the legal protection of human life. The USCCB will be offering call to prayer materials, including prayers and educational resources, and an invitation to fast on Fridays for these intentions. Those wishing to join this 9-week prayer effort can sign up at usccb.org/pray to participate in this and subsequent calls to prayer initiatives via email or text message. And finally, in the news, Pope Francis has added an Italian teenager to the list of people he will formally recognize as saints October 14th during the month-long meeting of the World Synod of Bishops on Young People. The announcement was made at the recent Ordinary Public Consistory at the Vatican.
Pope Francis announced beatified Italian Nunzio Sulprizio will be canonized on October 14th during the Synod on the Youth. The future saint died in the mid-19th century at the young age of 19. He had worked manual labor jobs, serving as a blacksmith under his uncle. Sulprizio's simple yet solid faith have carried him to the highest recognition one can receive from the Church.
Questo beato risplende per l'innocenza della vita e l'intima partecipazione al mistero della croce. In modo particolare nell'imminenza del Sinodo dei Giovani, che Vostra Santità ha convocato per il prossimo autunno, la figura di Nunzio Sulprizio costituisce un modello.
Nunzio Sulprizio will be declared a saint alongside two greats, Paul VI and Oscar Romero. This consistory was one of the few public appearances that Pope Francis will make in July. Despite dedicating more time to rest this month, his voice sounded tired. The Holy Father is only making one public appearance per week during the praying of the Angelus on Sunday. Presiding over this consistory was an exception.
Nunzio Sulprizio was declared blessed in 1963 by Blessed Paul VI, who will be canonized together with the teen on October 14th. Well, that is all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.